Okay, so a few definitions here. So we were looking at the different pieces of the puzzle and how they fit together. So environmental geopolitics. So traditional geopolitics is related on interstate relations, distribution of military and economic power among states. So that is traditional geopolitics. Insecurity. Military threats posed by rising or declining powers, assuming worst-case motivations on one another's part, like physical and virtual terrorist attacks and denial of access to any of the world's common spaces. So traditional geopolitics, relations, distribution of power, and respond to insecurity. Now, environmental geopolitics is an interplay between climate, land, water, food, migration, urbanization, economic, social, and political stress. So that is the whole picture, a much bigger picture than we see with traditional geopolitics. And I think it's very important to look at that bigger picture to understand that it's not only about military, about threats, about who can access who. It's also about motivation. Why do people have the motivation to actually feel threatened? Why? What is happening? What is happening on a bigger scale? And while preparing for this presentation, I felt more and more that the geopolitics is way too limited to really understand. The traditional geopolitics is way too limited to actually understand which powers are at play and what things drive us. And we cannot only look at military, we cannot only look at politics, we also need to look at people's direct livelihood and how they can respond to that. And
you want to say that environmental geopolitics, right?
Yes. I think that we should, when we are studying geopolitics, we should actually study environmental geopolitics in order to really understand what's going on. It's not only about military buildup, it's also about motivation and what challenges people are facing and how they can respond to these challenges. So what we were talking about just now as what is needed to actually create stability in regions, create stability in the Sahel. So what we can do in order to avoid these problems to occur, and if that is impossible, to help people deal with it. If not, then we will have geopolitical issues. But it's already too late now over there, because we have Boko Haram, we have IS, so the people have already stepped into this vacuum, because geopolitics as a science didn't teach us clearly enough which powers are at play here.
Geopolitics actually that you want to say environmental
geopolitics.
No, environmental conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory.
Why do you say conspiracy?
By government and multinational company, conglomerate. Environmental conspiracy theory. It means they try to steal the world again. Right? Looking for this opportunity. Right? Climate change is good. Like CO2, this is lie, but CO2 increasing, it's a good opportunity to do some investment to tell people, just, okay, your seawater level rising, you need to protect, do something like that. Even not like that, but they try to ask them to pay money. This is a conspiracy theory. A lot of things is prevailing in the world. I studied for 15 years, and I did know that a lot of things happen. But ordinary people is very, poor minded, not clever. So they are lying, they do not recognize what's going on, pay money, especially Africa. Right? Okay, we're going to money, donate, railways, infrastructure, they welcome. They don't know why. These are still resources. China is a good example. Right? This is a conspiracy theory. Environment is environment, and also the other one is just some space or some space, as we did it before. Like
space economics?
Space crime or something like that.
Cybercrime.
Cybercrime, yeah, cyber war, cyber issues is another big opportunity to doing business.
Like, yeah, you like that, huh?
Yeah, I like it. This is cyber, warm. worm, put in machine. They kill the nuclear power plant immediately.
A worm. Ah, yeah.
It's very easy. Worm, it's very easy. Okay, if you protect it, you need to pay million dollars. They'll pay. And this one the same. Right?
It's true, but basically so is every insurance policy.
Oh, insurance policy is one example.
Exactly.
How to get money, insurance company gets money, right? And they're thinking about the environment, like she said, forest fire is a good example. How to get money. Very clever person thinking about getting money. But I tell you, this is the wrong thing.
But conspiracy theory is not really the way that I wanted to go. I mean, I do agree that this is also, it's used, especially by companies or by politicians to actually who have an agenda, who have an economic objective to exaggerate, to make people believe and say, okay, we need to respond to this. I'm quite sure that people will use that argument, but my point here was more that we need to consider much wider series of factors than we are normally doing when we are looking at geopolitics.
People consider for environmental geopolitics.
Yes, actually there are quite
none of Japanese people, specialists for those areas, never think about that. I was working with famous people for 15 years, okay? And everybody very heavy experience for environmental issues and climate change, very heavy knowledge. And they wrote a lot of books. They were talking about this one, okay? Because they are scholars, they are professors. They don't know the world. What's going on? Africa, they don't know. Okay, they try to make a best way to how to consider for environment issue. But the problem in the world, they know everything, but who the bad guy, they don't know. This is the problem. They try to do more efficient lifestyle, more how to best way of sunshine, to how to utilize water and air and everything, and they try to make an effort. But you know, but always they have conspiracy of bad guys, geopolitics all over the world. But they never told those sort of things beforehand. Right? This is what you want to say, right? Okay.
Okay. So let's look at a number of cases here. The things that are at stake here. So from 2006 to 2011, up to 60% of Syria's land experienced the worst long-term drought and most severe set of crop failures since agricultural civilization began. So as far as the dates back. So there was actually between 2006 and 2011, there was a huge drought in Syria. In UN 2009, 800,000 reported by the UN in 2009, 800,000 Syrians had lost their entire livelihood as a result of the droughts. So there was
2011 to 2009. UN 2009, 2011. What do you mean? You have two figures.
Oh no, 2011. This was in 2009. In 800, then this should have the dot here. In 2011, a number of Syrians who were left extremely food insecure by the droughts sat at about 1 million. So there was a lot of food insecurity at that time. The number of people driven into extreme poverty is estimated between 2 to 3 million people. So it was not only a response, very likely, not only a response to Assad and one liberation. Basically, it was people were facing a drought, were confronted maybe with climate change, or at least with extreme weather situation that are commonly attributed to climate change, and that drove people into poverty. The Assad regime combined mismanagement and neglect of Syria's natural resources, which have contributed to water shortages and land desertification. So it was not only the problem of climate change in itself. It also was mismanagement, because Assad has heavily sponsored, or has heavily subsidized water-intensive industries like cotton growing and other agricultural sectors like cotton growing and other very water-intensive. So what happened is that people needed a lot of water to make it profitable. And that led to using too much water and actually exploiting groundwater, which led to the soil becoming much more drier directly because of the subsidies. So basically they made the wrong decision and driving farmers into the wrong direction. So that it was also a political failure of the Assad regime. Hundreds of thousands of people migrated from rural areas into the cities, which put strains and tensions on the already stressed and disenfranchised population. The cities in Syria were hosting a lot of refugees from Iraq. A lot of people who were in Iraq fled across the border. They already had lots of refugees from Iraq because they were suppressed by the Ba'ath regime, by Saddam Hussein.
Is that Iraq?
Iraq, yeah. Syria had a lot of Iraqi refugees. So they already had a problem, and that became worse because more people came to the city, fleeing the countryside, and there were not enough jobs for them in the city. So the poor have been forced to compete with poor for employment and access to water. So the case in Syria is that, okay, if we look at, basically we say Arab Spring is a clear-cut case, but maybe it's not such a clear-cut case. Maybe there are more factors at work here. One is the suppressive regime of Assad, but another one could very well be that it's climate change, it's poverty, it's migration, all kinds of geographical factors at work here and geological factors at work here that could much easier explain what the problem is. And if we know what the problem is, we know what we can do with it. Now we are only focused on military intervention, but basically we're way too late. We're way too late. We already knew in 2006 that these problems were maybe about to happen. People were getting poorer and poorer. So the problems could have been identified and could have been responded to, but we didn't, because basically we have a way too narrow view on the problems at hand. Another case, this is the former Soviet republics, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. In 2014, there were fights. Fire was being exchanged, gunfire was being exchanged between the people, the military in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan in 2014. That was an incident. The disagreement between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan on water distribution rights in these border areas, because it's too dry and they both want access to that water. So basically, they both need water in order to anticipate the climate change and increasing water stress. And actually, I contacted a friend, or my former landlord in the Netherlands, who was working for JICA and is working in Kyrgyzstan. He told me that actually it's not only Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. Basically, Uzbekistan also is fighting hard to get access to water. So the conflict zones are not only here. You cannot really see this area, but there is a big source that has a lot of downstream potential. Actually, maybe you have a handout of that. So both states are located upstream of the Aral Sea basin, so Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. Possibly, there is a possibility of additional interstate water disputes. And combine this with failed states like it borders with Afghanistan and ISAF, who withdrew from Afghanistan. So basically there is a power vacuum there. ISAF.
What is it?
The international, is the International Allied Forces, the peacekeeping organization of the UN, basically. Then there is Al-Qaeda linked with IMU, which is the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan. So what we're seeing here is Afghanistan. What we're seeing here is Uzbekistan. We see terrorist organizations, but what we really need to understand is that there are bigger forces at work here. There is a water crisis that is waiting to happen. So this is going to be a source of conflict. But if we ignore the geographical part in this element, then we are likely to fail if we only think of military response to the problem. So also here climate change is something that we need to watch, and we need to put it in a bigger perspective in order to be able to deal with the problems at hand in a much more effective way. Another case is Vietnam. Vietnam, 6% of the gross domestic profits come from fishing, and 7.4% of the population, of the entire employment in Vietnam is from fishing. So fishing is a very important sector. The problem in Vietnam is that there is significant overfishing. So people take too many fish from their EEZ, that's their territorial waters, and that leads to depletion of the fish reserves. So if you take too many fish, then basically the number of new fish that can grow from your limited source is becoming limited, and then finally will result in extinction.
You want to say China?
So and a large amount of that withdrawal, of a lot of that fishing can be attributed to the incursion of foreign fishing vessels, Chinese fishing vessels. But that's not the only thing that's happening. It's not only the Chinese entering the Vietnamese territorial waters. It is also global warming. So the warming of the seawater leads to changing in migration patterns of fish. So basically, fish do not need to go that far south anymore. They can stay further up north. So basically, fish are no longer coming to Vietnam. So it's not only
no longer coming.
Oh, so they're no longer coming. So this and another thing is that these fish are being also thrown off their path through migration patterns, tsunamis, and cyclones. So this is a possible strain on food security, and it could lead to serious clashes. Actually, people have died already in conflicts over fishing in these waters because fire that had been opened on fishing vessels, and it's a direct threat to the livelihood of these Vietnamese fishermen. So fishing agreement between China and Vietnam has been reached, so they made an agreement, but still, like these lethal conflicts over illegal fishing are continuing. So people entering, fishermen entering these territories because it's just too attractive. They see that they need to increase their territory because there's less fish. And if there's less fish, then you need to increase your territory, otherwise you cannot catch enough to make a living. Which leads to conflicts of interest between China and Vietnam. So here again, if you don't consider the entire picture, this is just a matter of land grab, but that's not the case here. We need to see, okay, this global warming issue is actually going to contribute in significant changes. And this will very likely lead to conflict. The United States has responded with climate finance. So they created the fund, and I'm not sure whether this is the same fund that we are talking about. But there is a big, significant climate fund that is actually trying to do something, not only delivering equipment, but also trying to involve people and becoming part of the solution and trying to sit down together and maybe through training or local involvement try to help grassroots activities to balance these things. It's 12 o'clock. This is a 1 hour video. どうしよう。
大事の10 minutes.
Edu is wondering, we should see the 1 hour video.
So, okay. Okay, well, I don't think that it's possible to give a 10-minute video from a 1 hour video, so I'm going to skip the video, sadly enough, and focus on the question, okay, how to respond to climate change. What do we need to do? So basically, we must expect a continuing and increasing interplay between climate, land, water, food, migration, urbanization, and economic, social, and political stress. Because of these changes, it all fits together. It's a kind of a chain reaction. You cannot see one thing without the other, and that is also why this is so complex, because we cannot really forecast how everything works. A very small change in one element could lead to very big effects, like the butterfly over the volcano in South America can change chaotic patterns. This is exactly the same thing that's happening here, but we cannot ignore it because chaos is reality, and therefore we need to try to grasp its patterns as well as we can. But it's not an easy task. So how this, what kinds of effects we can find, and how can we learn from this and respond to it? So we have gone from a connected world to an interconnected world. So it means that basically we had an infrastructure that enables us to connect. But now we have become much more not only connected but integrated. That means, for example, supply chain integration, global collaboration. Everything works together. The internet now has become like our lifeline basically to the world, because we cannot work without the rest of the world anymore. So it's very much interconnected, which means that there are also a lot of spillover effects from one part to the other part of the world. Look at the financial world. It's completely integrated. Money flows so quickly from A to B to C to D that it's almost out of our control. We can no longer control the financial streams, as it is so flexible and so gigantic. So it's like these huge waves in a small aquarium. So when the world is interdependent, your rivals failing is much more dangerous than your rivals rising. This is a quote from Tom Friedman from the New York Times. So because of all these waves, because of all these spillover effects, we cannot ignore what's happening. It's just way too dangerous, because everybody has access to internet. So cybercrime, for example, is one way to respond. Everybody, for a very relatively small amount of money, can fly from A to B. Access to weapons is very easy to mobilize yourselves and organize yourselves using internet, using the tools that we have. So we cannot simply say, okay, well, it's their problem, forget about it. We just keep on doing what we're doing and ignore their problems, and we send some food. It's not enough anymore. It's not enough anymore, and global problems will amplify. So So because of globalization and interdependence, the relationship between climate change, migration and security should become the new normal in international policy conversations. So we should not only talk about military buildup, about economic zones, things like that. We should also look at, okay, we cannot only look at the big picture, we also need to look at the small picture and drill in and say, okay, what does it mean for them? Because them could be a very small seed to a big conflict. We can no longer abstract and take 10 steps back because at 10 steps back you cannot see the potential source of conflict anymore. Globalization, interdependence, we have a tendency to make it look also simple with a helicopter view, but you cannot do that because basically now every seed can potentially be can become into something really, really big.
Well, this is exactly happening for the China nuclear power plant. They are constructing and will construct nuclear power plant is accounted to 100. So one or a couple of those will burst within 10 years. So this sort of things happen. Japan will going to be big impact by nuclear power plant burst. So what we want to do? We have no way to avoid this sort of accident. And currently, as you know, the Fukushima nuclear power plant, they have a lot of nuclear, what they say, nuclear effect. Lots of people affected.
Fallout.
Polluted. But the government concealed the fact. But actually, in the case of China, nuclear power burst is, I think, much more than impact to Japan. But nobody tried to consider for that seriously. But this is very serious.
I remember when after the tsunami, so there was this question of can we believe the government, right?
Do you know many people polluted and that blood coming in the hand, and the American soldiers, a lot of people polluted, and also the part-time people, supported people is polluted.
Contaminated, like with radiation?
Radiated. But government concealed. Said no, nobody, so they should do not guarantee for those people contaminated. So especially for the American soldiers. This is, I think, that's the reason that overseas people try not to import agricultural food for those areas, still contaminated. But they try to conceal it. This, in the case of happening in China, 100 times more bigger impact for us. Right? This happened 1 or 2 is bust. And even Japan is a cause of the big impact, right, for us.
I was actually considering at that time, so can I believe what the news that is being broadcasted? But I thought, naively, okay, there is no way that the government can lie now, because if that comes out, then the total trust will be gone. And
by the way, did you see the people that contaminated, polluted people
No.
on TV?
No.
They don't show it.
No.
I saw that just the internet, there's such blood is coming through all the body because of their supporting for that site of the area. Many people. Do you know that the blood is coming
No.
through all the body?
Well, I know that it happened in Hiroshima after the...
The same thing happened. Many people. And this is very similar to atomic bomb. And nobody knows because they do not know what, because it looks like air. Air, just breathing. And you have to breathe on the inside, and the effect will coming out several months later. Many people, but no media, just no news, they might be prohibited. And my plan, they're going to start the business there, and workers working there, 500,000 people working there, 500,000? Many people working there. At least full-time basis, 10,000 people working there. And the day salary is $500,000. $500,000 there.
A day?
Yeah, the people that just only get 10,000, but many organizations get money from this government payment, but that they are very polluted. But no news prohibited. But same thing happened. The China case is not 100 times more serious. We're going to be right. Japan in the case is not burst, right? But China case 100 nuclear power plant, 1 or 2 bursts, right? What's going on? This is climate, is big climate change, impact of the climate. Especially in Niigata prefecture, and other areas like cloud coming from China. Many people were dead. No way, it's just atomic bomb same. Right? Hydrogen bomb is burst in China. What's going on? There's many people dead. It's 100% sure. But no try to avoid this kind of burst because Chinese government never asked us to do that, right? They try to do it by themselves. It means they didn't have any hydrogen bomb or atomic bomb in their country. They don't know what kind of impact on their people is going to happen, right? So Japanese people, some people knows that. That's the reason. It's currently happening. But Japanese government never tell the truth. I know that, So this is not easy problem. This one for us, right? This is happening. But I think we need to. I have an institute, I just ask them to. Currently, cyber war. For second is environment is a big issue. How to give them caution? How to? Okay, this is we cannot avoid. I think for first, but after that, what kind of action we should take? We should consider about that. I don't know when it will going to happen, but it will happen. So we need to consider how to protect yourself, not avoid, protect yourself. But nobody protect. Conceal it. No. You should tell the truth. Otherwise, it's a system.
But it doesn't happen.
Huh?
So I was really amazed that later on I learned that the government had the guts to actually lie to us.
Lie to us, yes, lie to us.
In that situation.
Did you see the picture of the blood streaming?
No, I didn't.
No, this is actually, you can look on the internet. This is happening. And also, did you, former Prime Minister Koizumi went to the States, meet with the soldiers supported for the accident for that people, and they had the polluted by this their support, and they have some people got cancer, some people got disease, but the Japanese government never support them because this is not because of that accident, they say. But actually, this is many people.
We're talking about the recent nuclear.
Yeah, recent. Koizumi went last month to the state to meet with soldiers, polluted soldiers, and they got exchanging opinion. And Koizumi sued Japanese government. Sued. And Koizumi tried to prepare what's going on, what's happening for American soldiers. This is Tomodachi operation, and 5 years ago. But those 5 years ago, the Tomodachi operation, the soldiers got disease everywhere. American government, Japanese government concealed it, but Koizumi tried to reveal what's happening. But because he's against nuclear power plant, right? So she tells the truth. But news media never tell the truth. That the environment is not only environment. That's the reason why I'm talking about conspiracy. So conspiracy, tell a lie. Conspiracy. So we need to tell the people, ordinary people, they need to make a judgment what's going on. Why should do that? If you need more billion money, but the Japanese government.
But what is your answer? I mean, what is your answer? Basically, so we can almost be sure that if this would happen, we will not know the truth.
Yeah.
So how to respond?
Yeah, like Koizumi said the same. We need to tell the truth, what's going on, and then like China caused a problem for environmental issue, but we cannot avoid it. So we need to prepare for what happened. solving the things, we need to give them our people. Tell them caution. Like a tsunami will come, earthquake will come. Okay, just environmental problem will happen. Will happen, 100% happen instead of tsunami or instead of earthquake. This is 100% happen within 5 years. So we need to, Japanese people need to prepare, especially Niigata, Toyama people. What's going on? What's in this case? What is this is we have experience on Fukushima 5 years ago. So we need to summarize Fukushima what's happening, but don't conceal. Open the world.
Yeah, but I mean, so we know already that probably it will be concealed.
Yeah.
So how to respond to that next time?
We need to share the, what kind of things happen for environment change, or what kind of birth in China. Immediately, what kind of action we should take. We need to tell the truth to people. Don't silent for next 3 years. You escape from Niigata, you escape from Toyama immediately, going to the East Coast. This is 100% for sure. You can live there. So this is big impact, but this is true. But you can get to know the 3 days before, or past, or 3 days after this crowd coming to Japan. So you need to escape as possible as quickly as you can. This kind of message you should tell the Japanese people. So sort of thing. The Japanese people very optimistic. Like the Fukushima birth, Fukushima accident, and Tokyo has no impact. Everybody believes that. No. This is a very high capability. We're going to produce it. But the government never tells that. But holiness, many people escape. My family fly back to China. Everybody will fly back. This is true. But Japanese government never tell the truth. So Tokyo people never move. But non-Japanese company, Tokyo executive, everybody went to Osaka, went to Kyushu, right? I remember, this is true. But sort of things is environmental issues we need to consider for contingency plan, we should consider. But this is very important, right? Nobody prepared. But foreigners knows that your country people, like Fukushima accident, you try to escape from Tokyo to somewhere, right?
I didn't.
You didn't. oh my God. That's the reason
because I was...
my family corrupted. My family corrupted. They everybody escaped. So my family never come back again. But this is but the environmental issues we need to consider. Even now, Japanese government try not to tell the truth. Many people, they expect to go back to their home. It's impossible. 50 years you cannot come back, going back. Tell the truth. You cannot. And pay money for it. Your government, okay, you pay money, you make people budget. Otherwise, it's a pity for those people. Right? And some people, okay, you can have a chance to go back home. No, you should not. It's very risky.
Of course.
Right? This is and the organization against sort of against environmental organization just criticize some sort of things. But those people is they are say like a left-wing type of organization. Nobody listens.
So.
Yeah, no left-wing people. Always you are like a wolf. Wolf coming 3 times, the 4th time nobody listens to them. The same. They said wolf coming, wolf coming, wolf coming. Nobody listens to them. This kind of activity they are doing. Okay, I'm like a communist party belonging to those sort of people that never listen. So this is a problem. I worked for 15 years. I do know that. So what?
So what?
Yeah, but we need to prepare some material, and maybe some people listen to us. Okay, we're going to give them caution.
But by not sharing this kind of information, we also now are basically forced into restarting all these nuclear power plants and just
this is
repeating.
I tell you why I'm doing liberal arts school here. Liberal arts is we recognize what's going on, what's happening. And I'm studying for more than 15 years for the liberal arts. So 15 years studying liberal arts, what we got to know? Okay, whatever things happen, how to think, how to consider what's happening, event, accident, incident. what's happening. Then every time we discuss and consider for those things many years, then you can get to know anything happen or any kind of phenomena. Now you're going to judge. Okay, this is sunset. This is we take action. We try to do some, different way of thinking. So this sort of Japanese people, they don't have some mind. Always read newspapers. That's all. Very risky. Doubt it, or you need to discuss it. You need to consider it. You need to take your own way, your judgment. You should take. This is what the people are going to do. The Japanese people, they do not. This is wrong.
Critical thinking.
Exactly. This is wrong. But all the ancient people tell the truth. Chinese people tell the truth. If you discuss, if you read news, accident, incident, whatever, every time, always you are watching what's going on. And that is a study. If you study, this is why you are going to study. You get to know the fact. In your mind, you need to think, and if you some skeptical issue, discuss with other people. Then you try it everywhere, every time. You're going to do that. And time goes by, you can decide, you can judge what's going on, what the fact is. Japanese people cannot do that. Because they just only read, no discussion, no thinking. That's very risky. They receive information from government, receive the information newspaper, media, this is wrong. The current Japanese media is totally wrong. Conceal it. This is very risky. If you go to the Economist, you go to New York Times, they tell the truth. Or they don't tell the truth. Something wrong things, they're okay? Wrong things they are writing. So every time you don't believe what they're talking about.
But it's also not so clear cut, of course, because there are so many things that cannot be just characterized as right or wrong or true or false, because it just depends on the angle that you choose to look things from, what you include in your analysis, what you don't include in your analysis. That also brings me back to thing today. So if we don't include these kinds of changes in geography, in migration, in employment, in climate change, then we cannot see the full picture. So we are way too much abstracting from the big point. Now, for example, we are in a discussion of restarting nuclear power plants based on economic motivations, because we need it, because for whatever reasons it's necessary for Abenomics to succeed. But that's only a very small part of the problem. That's not the big question. That's only a small question. The big question is much bigger than that.
Yes, exactly. Okay, let's go.
Okay. So how do we respond? And I think I briefly touched upon that in the beginning. We need to manage what's unavoidable. So certain things will happen. This is what you're saying. We need to manage what's unavoidable. Earthquake will happen. A nuclear accident will happen. And we need to avoid what's unmanageable. Basically, we should seriously consider whether we really can manage a nuclear accident, another nuclear accident. And if the answer to that question is no, then we should try to avoid this by maybe not restarting a nuclear power plant. So manage what's unavoidable and avoid what's unmanageable. Stimulate market-based solutions through regulations and prices to drive clean energy, clean water and clean power in the United States or anywhere else in the world. This is according to Friedman. So market-based solutions through regulation and prices in order to avoid these climate problems to occur. And manage is...
I don't understand. What does it mean? Stimulate market-based solutions.
So how to... we are talking about climate change here and climate problems. So avoid, it's not just it's not enough to just say, okay, if this happens, we need to deal with it. We need to avoid it.
You mean increase price or increase some more severe regulations he's talking?
No. Well, basically, one thing, certain technologies at the moment, like for example, energy of clean vehicles, clean cars, they are not economically viable. If you would put a market price on the electric car without any subsidies, people would not be driving electrical cars. But currently, two out of three friends of mine drive electric car. Why? Because the subsidies on those cars are so attractive that they say, okay, well, in that case, I want to drive an electrical car. So let the market help you to implement technologies for the future to avoid bigger problems. If you do not do that, if you just say, okay, well, basically the market should always do its work, the market doesn't always do its work because it doesn't help to avoid bigger problems in the future. Through the market, not ignoring the market, but helping the market to come to a desirable solution is one part to avoid bigger problems. So clean water, clean power, in order to avoid these problems, in order and not basically be too late and say, okay, well, whoops. Manage. So the global community should shift away from hard security towards human security. So hard security means weapons. Like submarines, airplanes, fighter jets, ships, towards human security, livelihood protection and sustainable development.
Human security means diplomacy.
Human security means that basically we help people to build up their livelihood, to sustain their livelihood. We cannot ignore the fact that, for example, the Sahara Desert is growing. And because the Sahara Desert is growing, human security is at risk in this area. If we ignore that, we create potential threats to ourselves. So instead of buying weapons and going in there and try to suppress those people, we should actually focus on helping those people to deal with this growing Sahara. It's basically preventive measures instead of responsive and try to suppress these conflicts, because we cannot suppress these conflicts because of this interconnected world. It's impossible to keep on. We're already in the situation, right? So the United States is fighting terrorists everywhere over the world. Why? Because we are too late. We have not been able to basically create this human security. And because of that, we see all these conflicts occur. So now we are trying to fix what's already broken. But basically, we should try to maintain in order to make sure that it doesn't break. So basically, hard security is fixing. And human security, livelihood protection and sustainable development is maintenance. Is make sure that people will be able to maintain their livelihood in Vietnam, the fishers in Vietnam, the people who need water in the Aral area, and many examples that you gave this morning. So that means diminished distrust in Western nations, and this is also important. What Uno-san was saying before about, okay, why are people doing this? Why do we bring infrastructure? Basically because we want to take their natural resources out. That's the feeling that many people in these developing nations have.
What are you talking about in Western nations?
Well, so what in Western nations, usually if Western nations come with some kind of plan to for investment, like for example infrastructure development or things like that, people don't trust us, the Western world, anymore, because basically we have been using our investment, our money, to take out resources to get something in return that is beneficial only to us. So there's a lot of distrust in Western nations. First we have colonialized them.
Western nations?
Yes, in Western nations. So we have colonialized them. Then after.
So my question is, distrust, like Asian people distrust Western people?
Yeah, for example, or African people, or like everywhere in the world we are being distrusted because we have behaved very selfish and very disruptive. Like the Middle East, we have.
Okay, I understand. What does this mean?
It means that basically, if we want to contain this, if we want to become part of their problem and help to solve it in order to avoid bigger problems, we have to make sure that we take away the distrust that we have created over generations and generations of bad policies in these areas, by colonialization, by divide and rule, by trying to destabilize regions in order to keep influence and keep access to natural resources.
You wrote it, or some other person wrote this?
This is a number of things that I got from articles. Yeah.
I think Asian people or African people, who is going to diminish distrust?
So we need to do. Western people need to do that.
Western people need to not distrust.
So the current situation is we are being distrusted. People don't trust us. People don't like Americans. People Yankee go home, right? In the Middle East.
You people distrust American people. Right? You people distrust American people. I understand. What this mean? I don't
So,
know.
but we are being distrusted. So whatever, if we are being distrusted, then people will not trust us to help them to overcome their difficulties. So the thing is that this human security, in order to make this work, they need to trust us. If they don't trust us, they will not want to work with us because they think, oh, there must be some kind of hidden agenda. They want to take advantage of us. But the main benefit for us is stability. So if we want to be able to work with them, first they need to trust us because otherwise they don't want to work with us. So you need to build trust relationships.
Oh, for example, more concrete way, EU people never trust American people. Do you know why? Yeah, of course. It's considered shale gas. Europe never allowed them to develop shale gas. But America is, they allow them to develop shale gas for that environment. It's 100% for sure. So EU people distrust American people. No way. Oh, diminish? No, I don't diminish. Distrust them. Oh, beef?
But if we
poultry? Oh, I don't buy American poultry with like what I say?
yeah, hormones.
Hormone.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. Don't trust it. So you mean distrust this? It's impossible. I don't trust American.
Well, okay. If it's impossible, that means that we cannot. If we cannot build trust, then we will not be able to build human security because people will never allow us to work with them.
Of course.
Right? That means that we cannot control it.
Of course.
That means that basically.
Sustainable development? Bullshit. We never believe American people. But EU people believe that. They are keeping sustainable development. No shit. No kidding. America, no, they are chasing money. Sustainable development, environment.
Exactly. This is
Right?
you are actually 100% now wording the feelings of people in those countries.
Yeah, EU.
In the people in northern Nigeria, in Middle East. This is exactly how they feel.
Oh yeah. This is American people. Did people?
Yeah.
I don't trust. You know, this is that's a reason a problem. So
Exactly. So what needs to be, what we need to do as Americans, as Europeans, as Japanese, what we need to do is we need to start. This is of vital importance in order to keep influence and to be able to actually build up that human security. Otherwise, it will bite us in the behind.
What I'm trying to say, diminish trust investment is saying that is easy, but behind the scene you need to explain some more additional explanation. Otherwise, nobody believe it. Oh, diminish? No, kidding.
No, I'm not saying that it is diminished, but we need to work on diminishing it.
This is before diminishing the stress beforehand. We should do something for how to understand Westerners people, or American people, or EU people, right? Right? Or some cases, this afternoon, multicultural issues, right? In some cases, we need to consider for Islam people. So many, the distrust is all over the world, just diminish. How come we're going to diminish? We can't do that.
We cannot do that?
No,
Of course we can do that.
no, only Dutch can do it. Okay, move on.
Okay. So, so
next line is
if we-
also I don't understand.
okay, so I just want to make clear
Same, right?
this point is important. So
You
basically,
mean shake hands, right?
yes. So basically, if we cannot make them trust us, then we cannot work with them. If we cannot work with them, we can never build up this human security. So also bring together a wide range of civic and corporate partners. This is what I was talking about with about Hillary Clinton. She's really strong and she has very good thoughts about this kind of policy, about including women, about including minority groups, about mobilizing local society in order to and helping them to deal with their own problems. Facilitating them by basically helping them to solve the local problems.
What is the next one?
Transcend conflicts by creating avenues for constructive cooperation, issues including water management and crop adaptations. So we are basically focusing, for example, on military buildup and on conflicts, on traditional geopolitics. But basically, if we can, this is basically a one-way street. It's us versus them. But a water management problem basically is a civic problem that has a different dimension. So if this is a vertical solution, this could be the horizontal solution that transcends and that can build relationships on a much wider scale. So
this is a big issue: is the Mekong River.
For example.
I never saw. You said, okay, just only God solves this problem.
No, so this is where
I said, oh my God.
No, so basically this is where I think that Japan really drops the ball for example, in ODA delivering climate installations. In Bangladesh, now I'm working in Myanmar and Laos. There's no ground level discussion or anything. Basically, it's just a bunch. Actually, it's not even Japanese companies. It's companies like me who are being paid by the Japanese taxpayers who ship this stuff there without any involvement of the locals. They only do the civic engineering. There is no involvement on really discussing, okay, but what is your real problem? What kind of climatic problems do we have? We only ship them a product, not a solution.
Yeah,
so there is no trust.
I understand what you mean. Okay, final one, what do you say?
Okay, engage specific groups of population such as women, youth, entrepreneurs and religious communities that basically is close related to this one. So basically make sure that
it means cooperate.
Yeah, so the problem here is
minority.
What I was saying before is that we cannot afford to look at this problem only with a helicopter.
Yeah.
We really need to also look at how local, very small groups are being affected by bigger problems. So when we look at environmental geopolitical issues, it means looking at the bigger picture without forgetting about the small picture, involving small people.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we finish.
We finish.
What role can Japan play in global environment geopolitics? Yes, we can do a lot. We can do a lot, but no person to do. No person can do. Oh, they talking about in Japanese. Many people discuss, many books, many sort of people involved, but nobody can speak outside Japan. Oh, scholars, professors make lots of presentation, like some sort of institute, some event, make a presentation. What they know, what just knowledge, no message. They never say what global environment issue. You should do this, you should do that. No, they never tell that. They just tell the knowledge. Professor, they never think about next 20 years, 50 years, world is going to be. Nobody thinking about that. This is a problem. Geopolitics? No, none of those Japanese are thinking about geopolitics.
No, the problem is that mainly focused on the effects on the environment, but the effects on the environment affects our livelihood. Our livelihood affects the way that we are working together or we are living together.
Yeah,